And so I always ask, what's your North Star? So if you want to work at Blizzard, okay, well, here's the things that you got to do. You got to do these 8 things, and you got to do it this well. So when we talk about the next 3 years, it's basically fits within that framework. We got to know what are the things that people are going to be wanting within 3 years. So one of the things that's coming up now is artists should know some programming for the future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not it's something to learn, but it's not a pain. So learn Python, and there's plenty of free sources to teach that, but it's what we're starting to introduce now because we know that in the future artists are going to need it. They're going to need it to interface with machine learning programs, and they're going to need to become their own tech artists to some extent. So they got to do these 8 things plus 9. They got to learn some coding. Okay. Mm-hmm. Do they need to be able to code in machine language? Like, Ofer's the primary developer of ZBrush. And so he's like my primary source to understand programming. And he's crazy. Like what he achieves is, out of this world. So there's parts of ZBrush that, as I understand it, are machine coded. Like he's writing in machine language, which is the language other programs are compiled down into. And he is subverting certain Windows management routines so that they operate better for his program. And, all of these things he's doing. Do you need to be able to do all of that stuff? No, you don't need to be a software engineer who's dealing with databases. You need to be somebody, who knows a certain level of coding to get to a certain point. And so if there's one shift that I see coming, I do think, and I train my artists on this all the time, proceduralism is key. You have to keep proceduralism in your pocket because proceduralism is the gateway to machine learning. Machine learning is the gateway to actual artificial intelligence. So this pathway will happen no matter what, because the efficiencies are too great. The companies will do it. Like if you've seen, was it Promethean AI? Have you seen that?
I heard of it. Yeah.
It's a really cool system. I don't know the mechanics behind it. I just know the videos. And basically it's that system where you say, hey, I want an 1980s boys room, and it'll put the Star Wars poster, the Back to the Future, and it'll put all that stuff up. And then you say, I want it to be messy, and it'll make everything off axes, right? And you think about that one process of making something messy. Making something messy is a procedural process. What is messy? Messy is simply a certain amount of things off axes with a certain variance. This is procedural, right? So if I was to go in and make a room messy, a 3D room messy, I would do a series of procedural things I can train a computer to do. That kind of stuff is going to just become automated. Yeah. It's going to take some time. So what we have to be thinking about is, number one, where do I want to work? What do they need? What are their needs? And I need to first off get my foot in the door. So if I'm in the industry already, that's a different question. But if I'm looking at this and I'm like, hey, I want to be a game artist. I love what these guys are talking about here. I love what Brendan's talking about here in this podcast and all these things, these people that you bring on. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want to be one of these people. Well, training for the job is different than doing the job, is what I tell my people. Yeah. Because the first thing you have to do is you have to attract somebody's attention. That's it. Whatever attracts attention, that's what you got to do. You got to be the shiny object. Then you got to worry about keeping your job. That's different. The first thing is, what do I do that attracts attention and help somebody see that, I'm a job candidate. I have capacity. That's it. Just focus on that and don't get too caught up on all the crazy stuff that's coming. Because there's going to be time, I think. And there's difficulties. And I mean, I know plenty of people that have been phased out of the technology. I'm constantly getting phased out of the technology. It's harder and harder for me to teach this stuff. But at the same time, that's kind of the stuff I love to do. Like I love to learn this. I love to learn the frameworks of it. So I stay in it for that. But there's a million ways for us to think about our brand and our business outside of us being the ones that execute, and I'm rambling a little bit, but I think it's Tim Chamfer Zone's an example of somebody who's kind of gone out and expanded his brand to include all kinds of other activities, and now started to serve not just as the warrior, but as the leader. And I think this is the transition I've had to make as a creative. And it's the thing that I think is important for anybody exploring the entrepreneurial journey. You have to understand that being the artist is what might get you interested. It might be your first stage of validation, but you will die on that battlefield.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. You need to be a leader that has a vision and that is providing a framework for, all the stuff that you've already experienced, and use that as the foundation for your product. Don't just trade your time for dollars in an activity that now, you used to get paid $45 now to do it, but now I can get somebody to do it for $10 and they're actually better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the reality today. So why would you want to die on that battlefield? Don't. Reframe your thinking and stop being this person who's fighting for this other person's dollar. That's a lose-lose. Elevate yourself, elevate your vision of yourself, and try to find a way that you can become a leader for this problem. And that's what I've been struggling to do, because it's really hard to transition from artist to leader. Like, I'm reading this book, which I never expected to like. It's called Bury My Heart in Conference Room B. And my brother gave it to me. My brother, he runs dental offices. He's very much a business guy. And I was like, I don't know if I want to read any book my brother recommended to me. But it is an amazing book that talks about how you build culture in companies and how you transition from being this person that's just going to be out there and die on the battlefield to being this person that's leading other people and helping pave a path for their glory and yours too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. You're talking about you're going your utmost ability, and we were talking about at the very beginning. You only have a limited amount of time for your output, and the best way to do that is to 2x, 3x it by involving other people. That's where the partnership kind of thing, naturally, the danger of that. But if you do it right, you tend to kind of give up responsibility, which is another scary thing, and letting other people thrive as not just your goal, but their goals as well. And it's something, it's phases, man. I wish this was more part of and what you are doing is a great service to a lot of game developers out there, part of our game education. Because the 4 to 5 year thing is real. You get outdated really quick. Sure, you want to go to Naughty Dog, but why don't you talk to that Naughty Dog guy doing the job that you want and ask him how he feels, right? I think a lot of students just look at one step ahead and not look at themselves, when they're 30 or 40. Do you really want to still be a Naughty Dog? Everyone crunches like crazy, right? So it's something that I feel like only services like yours that really care about the students, that have the relativity to kind of express these knowledge to them. I feel like a lot of the online schools, there's a lot of them, just teach the techniques and just move on, which is I think a huge failing. A huge disservice, because it's dishonest. It's our industry is not that strong where once you're in, you're good, right? Come on, right? I mean, what we're doing on a lot of these cases here is to demonstrate to students that you got to have the overall perspective, go out there, build up that skill set, but also build up your brand. So you differentiate. And it is, like you said, much easier to come into an interview with the ArtStation community or whatever that people have actually come across you, just like that. You're like one-upping your competitor based on your personality, not just solely on your work.